There's a question that should never break your heart. But when a 12-year-old boy asks, "If I fall asleep here, will you wake me up?" something inside you knows. He wasn't asking for a nap. He was asking for safety. And these bikers, they heard what he couldn't say out loud. The first time Alex showed up, nobody paid much attention. It was a Tuesday afternoon, the kind where the sun hung low and turned everything amber. The Iron Refuge MC Clubhouse sat at the edge of town, where the pavement cracked into gravel and the noise of civilization faded into engine rumbles and classic rock. Greg was elbow-deep in a carburetor rebuild when he noticed the kid, skinny, maybe 12, with a ratty backpack and a comic book rolled up in his back pocket. The boy didn't ask permission, just walked up to the wooden steps leading to the main garage, sat down, pulled out a juice box and started reading. "Hey, kid," Ralph called out, wiping oil from his hands. "You lost." Alex looked up briefly, shook his head, and went back to his comic. That was it. He just existed there, quiet as a shadow. By Thursday, he'd become a fixture. Same time, same spot, same juice box, always grape. The crew started making jokes about it. "Our mascot's here," Tommy would announce when Alex appeared. "Must be 4 o'clock. Greg noticed what others missed. 30 years taught him to read people. This kid tracked every movement, sat with his back protected, flinched when tools clattered. Then came the question. It was late afternoon, golden hour stretching shadows long across the asphalt. Most of the crew had packed up, heading inside for beer and cards. Alex was still there, comic closed now, just watching the last threads of sunlight. Greg was locking up the tool cabinet when he heard it. "If I fall asleep here." Alex's voice was barely above a whisper. "Will you wake me up?" Greg froze, turned slowly. The boy wasn't looking at him, he was staring at his shoes, picking at a loose thread on his jeans. "What was that, kid?" "If I fall asleep here, would someone wake me up?" This time louder but shakier, like the words cost something to say. The garage went quiet. Paul, halfway through the door, stopped. Ralph set down his beer. Even Tommy, who never stopped talking, said nothing. "Yeah," Greg said carefully, crouching down to the boy's level. "Yeah, we'd wake you up. You planning on taking a nap?" Alex shrugged, tried to smile. It didn't reach his eyes. "Just wondering." He left 5 minutes later, backpack bouncing as he hurried down the road toward the residential streets. Faster than usual, like he was running out of time. Nobody spoke for a full minute after he disappeared. "That was weird, right?" Tommy finally said. "That wasn't just me?" Paul crossed his arms, jaw tight. That wasn't a kid asking about a nap. Over the next 3 days, they watched closer. A backfiring Harley sent Alex's juice box flying. He apologized 6 times, cleaning grape stains, hands shaking. When Mrs. Anderson offered him a sandwich, he devoured it in seconds. Boyle's excited voice about an engine mod made Alex flinch hard enough to nearly fall. "Sorry, thought you were mad." "Mad?" Boyle frowned. "Kid, I'm happy. This is what happy sounds like." Alex looked confused, like he'd forgotten the difference. Monday changed everything. Paul had errands in town, but something gnawed at him all day. That question. The flinching. The way Alex always left before dark, like he was racing a deadline. So when 4 o'clock came and Alex appeared right on schedule, Paul made a decision. He waited until the boy left, then followed. Not close, Paul knew how to tail someone. Kept half a block back, engine barely idling. Alex walked fast, shoulders hunched, checking behind him twice. When he turned onto Maple Street, Paul parked and continued on foot. The house was small, peeling paint, chain-link fence with a broken gate. Alex slowed as he approached, each step heavier than the last. A man stood on the porch. 30s, beer gut, cigarette dangling. He said something Paul couldn't hear. Alex's shoulders went rigid. Then Paul saw it. When Alex raised his arm to push open the screen door, his sleeve rode up. Dark purple bruises, fingerprint-shaped, wrapped around his thin forearm like a bracelet. The man grabbed Alex by the shoulder and shoved him inside. The door slammed. Paul stood there for 10 seconds, hands curled into fists. Every instinct screamed to kick that door down. But he'd been in the game long enough to know. That's how you make things worse. That's how kids end up in worse situations and guys like him end up in jail. He walked back to his bike, pulled out his phone, and made 3 calls. First to Greg. We got a problem. Second to Mrs. Anderson. Need you at the clubhouse. Early. Third to Ralph. Remember that lawyer friend of yours? The one who does family cases. We're gonna need her number. Tuesday morning, the Iron Refuge MC gathered around the shop table. Coffee cups sat untouched. Nobody was joking. We don't do anything stupid, Paul said. We do this smart, legal, safe. Ralph nodded. I'll talk to him, casual. Let him know he's got options if he wants them. I'll reach out to his mom, Mrs. Anderson added. Woman to woman. Offer her a job here, waitressing, bookkeeping, whatever. Give her a way out if she's ready. Boyle, who'd been quiet until now, finally spoke. And I'll make sure the kid knows this place is open. Anytime. For anything. Paul looked around the table at his brothers. Men who'd lived hard lives. Who'd made mistakes. Who knew what it meant to be forgotten. We show up, Paul said. That's all. We just keep showing up. When Alex arrived that afternoon, he found Ralph waiting with a broom and a grin. Hey kid, want to earn $5? Need help sweeping the garage? Alex's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Can't pay much, but the job's yours if you want it. Alex smiled, genuine, unforced. Yeah, he said. Yeah, I want it. And just like that, showing up became a plan. The job wasn't real, but Alex didn't need to know. Every afternoon brought simple tasks. Sweeping, organizing, wiping down benches. Reasons to stay here, reasons to leave there. Alex attacked each job like his life depended on it. He'd spend 40 minutes making sure every socket Ralph was perfectly aligned, color-coding them by size even though nobody asked. Ralph would slip him a $10 bill at the end of each week, and Alex would fold it carefully into his pocket like it was made of gold. You don't have to pay me this much, Alex said one afternoon, holding the bill like it might disappear. Ralph shrugged, not looking up from the transmission he was rebuilding. Good work deserves good pay. That's how it works. What Alex didn't see. His $10 sliding back into his backpack later. The crew rotated the same bills weekly, preserving his dignity. Meanwhile, Mrs. Anderson made her move. She found Alex's mother, Linda, at the grocery store on a Wednesday morning. Introduced herself as the bookkeeper from that motorcycle place your son hangs around. Linda's face went pale, half embarrassment, half fear. He's not bothering anyone, is he? I'll tell him to stop. Not at all, Mrs. Anderson interrupted gently. He's wonderful. Actually, that's why I wanted to talk to you. We're looking for someone to help at our cafe. Part-time. Better hours than factory work, and the pay's fair. I thought of you. Linda blinked. Why? Because your son talks about you. Mrs. Anderson lied smoothly. Alex barely mentioned his mother. And because everyone deserves a chance at something better. She left her number on a napkin. Linda stared at it for a long time before tucking it into her purse. Back at the clubhouse, Boyle was building something else entirely, trust. He'd been where Alex was. The houses changed. The fear never did. Foster care from age 7 to 17, bouncing between homes where family was just a word people used before they hurt you. He recognized the patterns, the hyper-awareness, the apologies for existing, the way Alex tested every kindness, waiting for it to snap back and bite. So Boyle didn't push. He just worked alongside him, letting silence do the heavy lifting. One afternoon, Alex asked about the tattoo on Boyle's forearm, a compass with no north point. It means I used to be lost, Boyle said simply. Still am sometimes. But at least now I get to choose which direction. Alex traced the lines with his eyes. Did someone hurt you? Before? Boyle paused, Ralph halfway to the bolt. Most people danced around that question. But kids like Alex didn't ask unless they already knew the answer. Yeah, Boyle said. People who were supposed to protect me. What did you do? Survived. Found better people. He looked at Alex directly. Like I'm looking at one right now. Alex's throat bobbed. He went back to sorting bolts, but his hands weren't shaking anymore. That evening, Boyle stopped by the woodshop behind the clubhouse. Spent 3 hours burning initials into a small wooden toolbox, AM, careful and clean. Lined it with foam. Added a starter set. Screwdrivers, pliers, a small hammer. Every tool had weight and purpose. The next day, he set it on the workbench without ceremony. That's yours, Boyle said when Alex noticed it. Figured you need a proper kit if you're going to work here. Alex stared. Touched the letters like they might be a trick. Mine. Yours. Nobody else's. For 5 full seconds, Alex didn't move. Then his eyes went wet, and he turned away fast, pretending to cough. Boyle pretended not to notice. By the end of the month, the plan was working. Alex stayed later each day. Linda called Mrs. Anderson's number. Paul's lawyer friend quietly reached out to the school, flagging Alex's case for monitoring. But Doug noticed too. One Thursday, Alex showed up with a fresh bruise along his jaw. Tried to hide it under his hood, but Greg caught it when the kid reached for a tool. Alex. The boy froze. What happened? Fell. Off my bike. Too quick. Too rehearsed. Greg didn't push. Just nodded slowly. You know where the first aid kit is if you need it. That night, Paul called another meeting. It's getting worse, he said. Doug knows something's up. Kid's spending less time at home, and that's making him paranoid. We could talk to him, Tommy suggested. Explain that we're just... No. Paul's voice was iron. Guys like Doug don't respond to reason. They respond to control. We go near him, he takes it out on the kid. So what do we do? Ralph asked. We wait, Mrs. Anderson said quietly. Linda's coming in tomorrow to talk about the job. If she takes it, she'll have income, independence, a way out. And if she doesn't, then we keep showing up. We keep being the place Alex can breathe. And we document everything. She looked at Paul. Your lawyer friend. She's building a case? Paul nodded. Quietly. But yeah, if it comes to that, we'll have what we need. The room settled into grim determination. Nobody liked waiting. But sometimes the right thing and the fast thing weren't the same. The next afternoon, Linda walked into the clubhouse cafe. Nervous. Suspicious. But there. Mrs. Anderson poured her coffee and slid the job offer across the table. No obligations, she said. Just an opportunity. Linda's hands trembled around the mug. Why are you doing this? Because your son deserves a mother who doesn't have to choose between feeding him and keeping him safe. And because I think you want out too. You just need someone to hold the door open. Linda closed her eyes. When she opened them, they were wet. When do I start? Linda started the following Monday. Morning shift at the cafe, home by 3. It had been 2 years since she'd last seen daylight that wasn't tied to exhaustion or fear. Doug hated it immediately. He showed up drunk on her second day, demanding she quit. Made a scene in the parking lot until Paul walked out, arms crossed, flanked by 4 other members. Didn't say a word. Didn't have to. Doug left, but not before slamming his fist into his own truck hard enough to dent it. Linda went back inside shaking. Mrs. Anderson handed her tea and squeezed her shoulder. You did good, she said. You stayed. He's going to make me pay for this. Not if you're not there when he tries. That conversation planted a seed. It would take weeks to grow, but it was there now, the possibility of leaving. Meanwhile, Alex bloomed in ways nobody expected. The toolbox became his most prized possession. He carried it everywhere, showed it to anyone who'd look. Boyle taught him how to gap spark plugs, read torque specs, identify engine sounds by ear. Alex absorbed everything like a sponge, asking questions that showed he wasn't just learning. He was escaping into something that made sense. One Saturday, Tommy's bike wouldn't start. Electrical issue, tricky to diagnose. Alex watched Boyle work for 20 minutes before quietly saying, "Could be the relay switch." Boyle paused, checked. The kid was right. "How do you know that?" Alex shrugged. "Read about it. In the manual you left on the bench." "You read the service manual? For fun. Is that weird?" Boyle grinned. "Nah, kid. That's perfect." The crew started treating him differently after that. They stopped explaining things twice, started asking his opinion, let him hand them tools, explain what they were doing and why. Alex's vocabulary shifted from comics to carburetors, from superheroes to suspension systems. Every Friday, Ralph forgot a comic on the workbench. Spider-Man issues about kids who kept getting back up. "You keep forgetting these," Alex would say. "Getting old. Better hold onto it for me." Both knew the game. Neither broke it. By November, Alex started talking about his dad leaving when he was 6, how he'd thought being better might have made him stay. About lying to the guidance counselor because truth felt like betrayal. About nightmares where doors disappeared and nothing could save him. "What do you do?" Greg asked. "In the dream. I wake up before it catches me." Smart. But you know what's smarter? Realizing it's just a dream. You're not actually trapped, Alex. Not anymore. The boy looked at him for a long moment. "It doesn't feel that way. Not yet. But it will." Linda's transformation was slower but just as real. Mrs. Anderson didn't just give her a job. She gave her language. Taught her about restraining orders, domestic violence resources, tenant rights. Information without pressure. Seeds planted in silence. The breaking point came in early December. Alex showed up with a split lip and wouldn't explain. Linda arrived 10 minutes later, face pale, and pulled Mrs. Anderson aside. "He grabbed Alex last night. Slammed him against the wall because dinner wasn't ready." Her voice cracked. "I tried to stop him and he—" She touched her own ribs gently. "I can't do this anymore. I can't watch him hurt my son." "Then don't," Mrs. Anderson said. "We have a place lined up. Small apartment across town. Paul knows the landlord. First month's rent is covered. You can move this weekend. I don't have money for a deposit. It's handled. The job gives you income. The apartment gives you safety. The rest we figure out as we go." Linda sobbed once, sharp and sudden, then pulled herself together. "What if he finds us? Then he deals with us." Mrs. Anderson's voice went cold. "And trust me, Linda, he doesn't want that." Moving day was Saturday. Paul called in every favor he had. By noon, a convoy of pickups and bikes descended on Maple Street. Doug was at a bar. Paul made sure of that, sending Tommy to accidentally run into him and keep him distracted with drinks and lies about a poker game. They moved fast. Furniture, clothes, dishes, Alex's comics. Everything that mattered fit into 3 trucks. Linda cried twice. Alex didn't cry at all. He just watched these men, these rough strangers, carry his life to somewhere safer. Boyle handed him a duffel bag as they loaded the last box. "Go pack your room. Anything you don't want him touching." Alex came back 15 minutes later with the bag stuffed. Boyle didn't ask what was inside. Didn't need to. By 4 o'clock, the old house was empty of everything that mattered. They left Doug's stuff exactly where it was, a clear message. "We didn't rob you. We rescued them." The new apartment was small but clean. 2nd floor, good locks, neighbor who happened to be a retired cop. Paul made sure Linda had his number, Mrs. Anderson's number, and the lawyer's number programmed into her phone. "You call if anything happens." That night, Alex slept in his own room for the first time in his life. Walls stayed silent. Footsteps meant nothing, he had peace. He texted Boyle at midnight, "I can't sleep. Too quiet." Boyle replied immediately, "That's what safe sounds like. You'll get used to it." Winter came hard that year, the kind that turned the clubhouse into a refuge from more than just cold. Doug tried once. Showed up at Linda's work 3 weeks after the move, drunk and demanding. Made it as far as the cafe door before he found himself facing Paul, Ralph, and 5 other members who'd coincidentally all decided to grab coffee at the same time. Linda doesn't work here anymore. Paul lied smoothly. Moved back east. Family stuff. Doug wasn't stupid enough to push. He left, and Paul made sure word got around. Doug's name was flagged at every bar, every pool hall, every place the crew had connections. One wrong move and he'd find himself explaining things to people far less patient than Paul. He never came back. Linda surprised herself. Assistant manager within months. Night classes in accounting, the degree she'd abandoned at 19. She and Alex bent over homework together under fluorescent lights. Couple of scholars, she'd joke, pencil between her teeth. The permanent tension in her shoulders had finally dissolved. But Alex's healing was messier. Some days he was fine, cracking jokes with Tommy, racing Boyle to see who could organize tools faster, pestering Greg with endless questions about engine timing. Other days he'd go silent, retreating into himself like a turtle pulling into its shell. He'd sit on those same steps where it all started, comic unread in his lap, staring at nothing. Boyle learned not to ask what was wrong, just sat beside him. Silence was its own language for kids like them. January brought the breakthrough nobody expected. The club was rebuilding a 72 shovelhead, full restoration, every piece cleaned and replaced. Boyle had been walking Alex through each step, teaching him patience, precision, the meditation of mechanical work. This is the heart, Boyle explained, showing him the engine block. Everything else is just decoration. You get the heart right, the rest follows. Alex ran his fingers over the metal. Reverent. Can I help rebuild it? Kid, you've been helping. But yeah, you want to do the final assembly with me? Alex's eyes went wide. Are you serious? Really? But you follow my lead. This isn't a place for guessing. They spent 3 weeks on that engine. After school, every day, Alex would arrive with his toolbox and Boyle would pick up where they'd left off. Piston rings, valve springs, head gasket, each piece fitted with care. The crew watched them work, the former foster kid teaching the abused kid how to build something from broken parts. Nobody missed the metaphor. The bike fired up on a Tuesday in late January. First kick. Perfect throaty rumble that made everyone stop and listen. Alex's face lit up like Christmas. We did that, he whispered. You did that, Boyle corrected. I just supervised. Paul clapped Alex on the shoulder. You've got a gift, kid. Real one. That night, Alex stayed late. Linda was in class, and he'd promised to wait at the clubhouse until she finished. The crew filtered out one by one until it was just Greg, finishing paperwork in the office. Alex curled up in the corner of the garage, surrounded by drop cloths and the smell of motor oil. Comic in hand, but his eyes kept drifting shut. The warmth, the safety, the exhaustion of a good day's work, it all pulled him under. He didn't fight it. Sleep came without surrender. Greg found him an hour later. The comic had slipped from his fingers, and he was breathing deep and steady, face relaxed in a way Greg had never seen. Hey, Alex. Greg's voice was gentle. He crouched down, touched the kid's shoulder lightly. Time to wake up, buddy. Alex stirred, blinking confused. For a second, panic flashed across his face, the instinct of someone used to waking up in danger. Then he saw Greg, saw the garage, remembered where he was. You promised, right? Alex mumbled, still half asleep. You'd wake me up? Greg felt something crack in his chest. All these months later, and the kid still needed to check. Still needed to hear it. Every time, kid, Greg said, voice rough. Every time. Alex sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. I wasn't scared, he said, like he was surprised by his own words. I slept. That's what you're supposed to do here. Be safe enough to rest. They sat there for a moment, the old mechanic and the young apprentice, in comfortable silence. Linda arrived 20 minutes later, textbooks under her arm, smiling when she saw her son. Ready to go home? Alex grabbed his toolbox. His initials still burned clear into the wood and nodded. But he paused at the door, turned back to Greg. Thanks for waking me up. Any time you need it. As they drove away, Greg watched from the doorway. Paul appeared beside him, coffee in hand. Kids doing good, Paul observed. Yeah, they both are. You know what the best part is? Paul took a sip. He doesn't flinch anymore. Took me 3 days to realize. Nobody's raised their voice in weeks and he hasn't jumped once. Greg smiled. Because he finally knows the difference between noise and danger. Think he'll stick around? Once he's older. Hope so. We could use a mechanic who actually reads the manuals. They stood there as the winter wind picked up, carrying the sound of bikes and laughter from inside the clubhouse. Somewhere in town, Alex was probably already asleep in his own bed, in his own room, with locks that worked and a mother who was present. He'd never ask that question again, if someone would wake him up. Didn't need to. He'd learned that safety wasn't about being woken up. It was about being allowed to sleep in the first place. And the Iron Refuge MC, men who'd seen too much darkness, who carried their own scars, had been reminded why they wore the patch at all. The open road mattered. Brotherhood mattered. But this mattered more. But for moments like this, for kids like Alex, for being there when nobody else was. Sometimes the loudest cries for help are the quietest ones. And sometimes saving a life is as simple as showing up. Every single time. This story reminds us that heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they wear leather and grease-stained hands. What would you do if you heard that question? Tell us in the comments. And if this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to remember, you're not alone. Subscribe to embrace the journey for more stories that matter. See you in our next video.